Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of February the 10th till the 16th, 2025. We have quite an interesting, surprising, and potentially quite shocking week ahead of us because without a doubt, the star, astrologically speaking, of next week is the full moon in the sign of Leo. That has a powerful surprise factor attached to it. Now, Leo is in itself a very risky sign in the sense that amongst many things it also rules risk taking. But risk taking is of course the the Leo Aquarius axis, because Leo is the heart but Aquarius is the higher mind. So when we take a risk, when we take a chance, when we evaluate, should I do it, should I, or anything like that, we bounce the energy between these two houses, the 5th and the 11th. So Aquarius and Leo, these archetypal energies. And full moon and Leo, well, our heart is ready to say something. It decided something. It has a truth. It has something to say, something shocking, something rather unexpected, something surprising, something, by all means, so much more better than one thought or expected, but surprise is surprise, and with Uranus, chances are whatever we anticipate is not going to be that. And this will mark the energy of next week. So let us begin. We can see here that we are on the 10th and we have an absolutely amazing and really beautiful energy before the full moon, but also during the full moon and also after the full moon. And I'm speaking about Saturn trine Mars. This is a really, really beautiful water trine. Now, I know it's a trine, but this doesn't necessarily guarantee that the energy, the way it is lived, the way it plays out in our lives, it's necessarily easy, because this is water, right? And especially in the sign of Pisces, Saturn, the solid, the structured, the heavy, it can be very well on the bottom. Trine Mars, Mars retrograde, and even Saturn is going through its shadow path. Or has it already? Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's still very freshly out of retrograde, even Saturn himself, in that sense of the shadow. And Mars is retrograde, so this can be very much about the past as well. Past in any shape, way, or form. Mars, willpower, energy, focus, to do, my strength, my potency, my motivation, determination, etc., etc. In the sign of Cancer, it is really good for, well, on one hand, building something slowly and surely. The Cancer shell, the defenses, the house, doing things around the house. If we want to take it in a very physical way. But besides house, anything energetically, anything internally, anything psychologically, anything, well, Piscean, Pisces, Cancer, our inner world, our feelings, our emotional security, who it is that we dream of being, our unconscious traumas, past, family karma, anything, anything to do with family. So this energy is going to be very, very active. Family, the past, or the past and future together, something to be completed, something to be worked towards, sacrificed, terminated, the symbolism of Saturn. So that's why it's a trine, but that doesn't mean it's very easy. For example, a big release, a big decision, or a moment of truth that changes the landscape of our lives due to just a feeling. This is very possible and probable, not just this week, but also all through the spring. Until the beginning of May in a more concrete way until June. But I do believe that it's going to be more intense during March, April, and the beginning of May. This is the intensity season because eclipses are going to unfold in March. And besides eclipses, the North Node in Pisces and Saturn meeting at Neptune, this Piscean energy is the ending, the completion, the termination, the dreamy energy. For example, in order for the new dream to be embraced, the old one has to terminate, whatever that means for the person, for us, both individually and collectively. Collectively speaking, the dream of I don't know what type of justice to take place is gone, done with, because either it happened or it's impossible. When after justice happens, well, that energy will enter into the domain of Pisces, the past. History, basically, recorded and unrecorded history, especially unrecorded because Pisces is the mystery, the bottom of the ocean, the rock, sediment, fossil fuel. So, you know what I mean. And dreams have to be completed or one way or another, abandoned, for example. Abandonment is also very Piscean energy, and it has a very healthy and positive expression if it's letting go, not clinging to that which no longer serves us, in that sense, moving away in feeling, in soul, in spirit from something. And this is very, very in the theme and must, the North Node. Certain dreams, especially long-term dreams, are meant to complete whatever that means in the specific, either to be abandoned, broken, not worth it. I had enough of living my. This is one of the other energy that is surprising and so important. This is the energy that, I worked for it, I studied for it, I am it, I'm doing it, but I so had enough of living my dream. Now, this can either guilt trip us into still keeping the dream alive, even though it's starting to make us more and more and more unhappy, or we can embrace our Uranian side with the full moon, but this isn't as simple as I make it out to be, because this is decision and inner balance and timing and when things are right. And the action of this to really prove what the new and the next is much more after June and 2026. So this year is much more about the big wrap-ups. However, June or the summer in my hemisphere is also important because by then the new has to knock on the door. What do I say to new? Well, after a big wrap-up termination, something new can come as a dream, as spirit, as energy, as something. That which Saturn and Neptune together, especially in 2026, will build upon, start constructing, start weaving it into physical reality one way or another. But this is where the specifics of each person, both individually and naturally collectively, we need a lot of new in our. I can give an example, but it's so inappropriate. There are certain places in the world where entire cities were razed, dissolved, Saturn in the sign of Pisces, and it needs reconstruction, and that's not optional, non-optional. There's that type of energy. There's the other type of energy where in many of our lives, a period comes in at least one area where Aries is, especially right now, the early degrees of Aries, when we need to start solidifying something, fighting for something, enduring something, working, something Saturnian needs to be pushed forward. Or, of course, disciplined big time. But that's also a kind of new beginning, but because something raw, after it's disciplined, it's a bit different. I can give such a weird example, like Vaseline. Well, Vaseline actually comes from the earth, really. It's a byproduct of like oil drills and certain mining, and that's raw brute. When it's sold, you can imagine that it's something a bit different, and this is the type of energy that for many people Saturn brings on the discipline, and Neptune together with Saturn as well, because certain things are and feel like and are in a certain way when they're not as real. After they become real, well, it's something different, very, very different. So we react differently as well. Another example that, because of its nature, is going to play out 1,000,000% in the life of someone or the world, etc. Let's say that there is an artist and they have a very special song that they just created for themselves, or a very special, so something very special about it, and they never ever released it. It's just theirs for them, or something happens and they release it. You can imagine that everything is different after the release, when it's not intimate, when it's not hidden, when it's not just theirs, when it's not just a dream. You made that song, but it's still a dream because it's only real for you. What difference is it between that and being in your head? Saturn. Yes, you will tell me Saturn, that it is in our physical realm already. Yes, absolutely. But only when Aries, Saturn, and Neptune and Aries starts having a story of its own, not just in the closet. Well, that's different. So this is the type of energy that we can experience very much, that when we are living it, when we're living the dream, it's no longer a dream. So for dreamy people, living a dream will only work for so much. And this is what Pisces natives, Gemini natives, and of course even Virgo natives are experiencing right now, that big dreams don't have to be permanent. Sometimes even 10 minutes of living it is more than enough. Sometimes getting to the stage of living it is already not, I don't want it anymore. Why haven't I included Sagittarius natives? Because Sagittarius does not have to follow any common sense, any ancient wisdom, any grounded common life experience. Sagittarius is a different universe, different cosmos. So the Sagittarian adaptation is unlike anything we can categorize. Virgo cannot label that very specifically, so it's extra special, and it blows the mind of Gemini and Pisces. Well, Pisces can't really drown that. So Sagittarius is very, very special in this sense. But anyway, let's get further into the horoscope. So Mars trine Saturn is always a good news, because what are we doing with the dream? Or are we preparing to do what in the next few months, next few even years for some people? Because this is where inside of our being, the non necessarily yet down to earth, rational, physical, the plan together part. Before that, a feeling has to come over us. I can give such a really, really horrible example that everyone fears and is everyone's nightmare. But this is where it begins. And the it is when we start falling out of love, when we no longer feel the same way. And there is not necessarily a reason for it. It is just Saturn. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is forever. Everything changes. What we do at the guilt trip after is what will determine the future. Saturn in Aries, the head. This goes on in the psyche, in the, mind, in the inner being. In 2026, this will be one way or another on. Not just in dream energy. This is the worst, actually, this isn't even the worst example because this is really natural part of life. This is a very, very natural part of life. The big difference is that our cultures, especially in this modern age, cannot adapt to the other phase of a relationship or any kind of connection where it's okay if we don't feel the same way as previously. This is exactly where the adaptation takes place, the compromise, a different stage. When in days and ages or cultures where walking away just like that is not possible, there are other compromises, solutions to happiness and balance and well-being. Just because feelings change don't necessarily mean that we cannot adapt reality to make the changed feelings be very harmonious, nice, serve the same thing that they served before. So when feelings start to change, that's not really negative, really. That's to us in this day and age, yeah, we are a bit very, very sensitive to this. But there are so many reasons why this takes place both individually and especially collectively, generational issues, things where society demanded from the individual, from the family, this and that. Life, really life, and the evolution of life, and customs and traditions and ideologies. This is the way it goes, right? And besides this, there is Mercury conjunct the Sun, still active very powerfully at the beginning of the week. And again, this adds the mental sphere, the mind. I'm processing it. Aquarius has much to do with the dream itself. Aquarius is where, well, it has to make sense. Philosophically, collectively, for you personally, based on your own unique set of logic and own relationship, own wisdom you harvested from. It doesn't matter. The dream is also Aquarius and Mercury and conjunct the Sun. Something is shining a light for us to look at it. Something is shining almost like a very bright light into our eyes directly. It wants our attention that desperately. Something that is philosophical, perhaps, Aquarius. Political. In mundane astrology, Aquarius is the politics, the politicians, politics. You get what I mean. Friends, people, our connections, internet. That is saying something big time to us that we need to think about, process, etc. but this is also really good for communication, for speaking our truth. However, both of these planets square Uranus, and the square is, especially in the sun's case, is active more or less all through the week. So we must really be careful, especially on Monday, on the 10th and the day after, because combusted Mercury squaring Uranus, it's out there. The communication, the words, the speech. So hopefully it's not angry or highly offensive words, but debates about the freedom of speech, what certain people, remember we're getting to the full moon and Leo is world leaders, VIPs, stars, royalty, nobility, the people who are in the spotlight, usually. Words there, communication, shocking truth, problems on the internet, disruptions, some shocking, but that is very clear for the full moon. Individually, either our own mind comes up with something shocking that we will need to find a good way to communicate, to dish out, even informationally speaking, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, that information can just reach us from friends, from family, from somewhere. And besides this, Mercury is trining, and of course, along with the Sun, Black Moon Lilith, and this also stays with us most of the week. Well, Black Moon Lilith, especially in the sign of Libra, is exactly the negotiation, the diplomacy, but where you dish out your truth. This is me. This is the real me. These are my realistic expectations. This is my truth. What can we do with it? And of course, Black Moon Lilith, in a harmonious aspect, is when in an air aspect, when we call out BS, and thank God we do. May that be our own individual BS, that very part of a dream, the big dream, right? Well, a trine is flow, even in the sense that we identify the BS before that fated. We stop ourselves from that decision before, right? We say the truth before the lie can do damage. So this is big communication, big words. This is a very powerful energy, mentally, intellectually, communication in any way, shape, and form. Moving on the 12th, well, we have the full moon in the sign of Leo, and I'm not going to be speaking about this very in detail because I have a separate video. If you'd like, check it out, please. So the full moon phenomenon, well, it goes hand in hand with Mercury. The sun is still conjunct Mercury. So we can imagine that yes, words, yes, communication, yes, information, mind, plans, thoughts, internet, people, in any way, shape, and form. A square Uranus, surprise value, money, more expensive, much cheaper than I expected. Why? Uranus can be well, this is way too good to be true. What is this? And thank goodness, Mars trines Saturn in the sign of Pisces, it adds a reality to the sign of illusion. This helps us kind of identify if it's too good to be true, because the worst case scenario, this can be scam, deception, lies, you know what I mean, all that. Because Mercury is square its higher octave, Uranus, surprise, surprise, but also sometimes it blows our mind big time, and sometimes not in a favorable. I never in a million years thought, but there it is. So fortunately, Mars trine Saturn give us, at least intuitively or instinctually or in spirit, why not? A common sense, a feeling that I can somehow trust my gut because it will ring the alarm bell. But what if something is really that rare, that opportunistic, that it's not too good to be true, it's actually true, but opportunistic. Sometimes that's a millisecond if you grab it, use it or not. So it's not as easy as, and this is one of those energies when we may see big lottery wins. Uranus in the sign of Taurus, Leo risk, Aquarius, assumed calculated risk, and the full moon, the balance, the opposition between the two. When the person didn't see it coming, didn't necessarily even want it, right? It was just a random spur of a moment, why not? And life changes, and nothing guarantees that in a good sense. It just changes. And especially for those people who didn't really want it, you can imagine that life will not change in a positive way. And they will have to Saturn a lot to not allow that life event to transform them. Psychological Saturn in the sign of Pisces. Okay, well, this happened to my material, but it's not changing who I am. Absolutely. Not so easy, neither impossible. And the moon trines Aries, goddess of discord. Very sovereignistic, very truth of the heart, very, very me, my will, my rights, my voice. I matter too, not just, but remember this, Black Moon Lilith, the trine here. This means she opposes Eris. So this is already a pretty complicated energy here. And so the moon trines Eris. It's not, how should I say? Whatever happens around this full moon, let's give it time to process it emotionally or reaction-wise or mercurially, as in thought, what just happened, what is true, what is not true. But it might shock us very much, and it might be a very individualistic energy due to Black Moon Lilith as well. Because Eris sextiles the sun, trines the moon. Black Moon Lilith trines the sun, sextiles the moon. So this is a complex aspect where we really need to get a lot right. A bit of intuition, a bit of gut knowledge, a bit of general intelligence, a bit of this, a bit of that. But remember, one thing is not going to change. Sovereignty, truth, really my will, me, brute honestly. Libra is very non-confrontational. Pisces, what does Pisces, Saturn trine Mars? Mars is the disher out of action. Do I do it? Again, non-confrontational energy, however, Mars in Cancer is confrontational. Because Mars direct in Cancer is the defender, avoids danger if possible, passive aggressiveness. I don't need to hurt you because I'm toxic, right? Retrograde is where it's a bit different. It's not retrograde is where even that type of Mars is pincers, the pincers of the crab. It means business. But fortunately, Saturn disciplines it. But it is also Saturn which provokes Mars if it does not, if it shies away. It's a trine, so it's in a good way. Circumstances will make it be able to work with this energy, if nothing else. So that's the full moon. And then on the 14th, 14th, we have a big energy shift, an important energy shift that is taking place. Well, on one hand, Mercury and erratic Aquarius. As we all know, an erratic degree is when the planet symbolism plays out extremely, usually the shadow expression, and it's powerful energy. And it's if there is a karma, with Mercury, when Mercury is not speaking in big aspects to very karmic power players, then it's when it goes aneretic in whichever. That's another moment when Mercury dishes out fated words, speeches, karmic stuff. Because Mercury is one of those planets which really, 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 really doesn't need to be karmic at all. Mercury doesn't have to go hand in hand with karma many times. Venus is also someone who, well, what is specific about Venus? Eternal freedom. Love cannot be controlled. So she likes to go against karma as well many times, but that's a different question. She is still a bit more subjected. Mars, well, Mars is way too more complex than that. Mars can be, but if you want to go against well, you need to use your Mars. Besides other planets. But anyway, you get what I mean. Mercury doesn't need to be karmic at all. Mercury can also be very dharmic but when it's aneretic, that's one of the key moments of the month, or put it into context, when the communication that is important will have an effect. So, but after it ingresses into the sign of Pisces. Now, Mercury doesn't love being in the sign of Pisces all that much because it is the opposite sign of its home of Virgo, where it loves being the most in all of the zodiac, even more than Gemini, believe it or not. So it's a bit lost, literally. However, this doesn't have to be anything bad because Mercury is in the Pisces is the realm of fantasy for poets, artists, mystics, psychologists, psychoanalysts, dreams, interpreting the signs, mysticism, esoterics. What is lie, what is true, what is not true is perfect energy. For getting things straight, facts, figures. He said this with proof and evidence. She said this with no. For that, it is not ideal. Neither it is all that advice to believe necessarily the words of, when romance and romanticism, you're not going to believe it in a mercurial sense, right? Because then you would truly be the princess, the prince, you know what I mean. But for art or complicating things, where is the truth, where isn't, is really, really good. Especially for the negative things when truth seeking leads to a quagmire of thoughts and it overfries the mind and you abandon it. You learn the lesson. I don't want the detective. No, 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 no. Neither do I need to discern exactly what a vision, a dream, a sign, the universe's communication to me. I don't necessarily need to understand it with mind, with like in a Gemini. No, no, no. I can just live in the subjective impression that I kind of understand it. And Mercury is making a key connection in that sense, especially on the 16th, because it is conjunct the fixed star Fomalhaut, the star of ancient wisdom, alchemy, esoteric sciences. Yes. And that's usually a period every year when Mercury conjuncts it. Divine download, dreams. Under that is when we do understand that dream, that intuition, that feeling, this and that. Because this Mercury is ideal for that, because we are not even seeking the rationale. We are just seeking a inner standing rather than understanding. So for that, it's really, really good. And this will wrap up our week in the sense that something will surprise us and shock us, and we will need to kind of let it sink, process it, because chances are that will lead to some bigger choices, or as we invite March with along with the eclipses into our lives. So thank you everyone for listening. I do hope that this was helpful, and until next time, bye for now.